James, it's all on your. Thank you very much for being here.
Amazing. Thank you for the intro. Thank you for having me speak at the event. I'm really excited for it. So, yeah, getting straight into it, my talk is going to be on how to scale D2C brands effectively with Google Ads. We're going to go into some advanced strategies on how to essentially cut waste, improve the efficiency of your Google Ads campaigns, and scale sustainably with Google Ads. So, a lot of brands are wasting a lot of money with Google Ads. So, a lot of their traffic is going to search terms that just aren't converting for their brand. So, account I was auditing about a week or so ago, they're spending about £60,000 a month on Google Ads, so it's not a crazy amount, but a decent chunk there. And 42% of that was going on terms that hadn't converted for them. So essentially, they would almost double their ROAS had they negated all of that spend. Obviously, it's not realistic to negate 100% of that waste, but there's obviously a lot of opportunity in that account to bring down that waste, to make those campaigns more efficient. So what I'm going to cover in this talk is going through PMax and how PMax over attributes inside of Google Ads. And it basically triggers on brand and inflates your performance figures inside of Google Ads. Your product feed and how that structures the ad and how you can improve that to improve ad relevance, click-through rates, lower CPCs, better quality scores. Product duplication, so essentially how you can multiply your presence on Google Shopping, take away some space from competitors and just dominate your field. Some more back-end strategies around Merch Center and the back-end, infrastructure of the account to ensure it's set up for scalability. And then some wastage, and then some slides on how you can, when it's time to scale, and how you can scale sustainably. So starting off with PMax, most accounts that are running PMax are probably seeing a ROAS of say 4 or 5 from their PMax campaign. But what they're not realizing is that it's triggering a lot on brand traffic, and that brand traffic could be, dedicated to its own campaign with a much higher efficiency, much lower CPAs, and it's essentially just blurring the lines between what's your non-brand acquisition cost, your clear new customer acquisition cost, versus what's your spend towards existing customers or people that are already aware of your brand. So that will essentially bring down your, ROAS a lot by having your non-brand excluded from there, but it gets hidden in the figures. So you want to exclude that. PMax is also, due to the nature of the campaign, it's going to be triggering on all of Google's properties, right? So search, shopping, YouTube, display, Gmail, all these different channels. And a lot of that spend, depending on how big the brand is going to be remarketing. So it's not going to be pure cold traffic, right? So you're kind of blurring, a mixture of top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom funnel audiences all into one campaign, which is creating what looks like in the platform a great ROAS, but when you actually isolate, where those new customers are coming from for the business, it's not always the most efficient channel. So you want to be checking these reports, making sure you're clear on, where are we spending, where are we actually making the money here, where is it coming from, not where are we just, having all this budget go to waste or being spent in channels that aren't as efficient, or we could be having better control of CAC or something if we were going after these audiences in individual campaigns. And Google's just deciding where your budget goes, so you have less control. But don't get me wrong, PMax is great and it really does help scale the account, but you just need to have the control and guardrails over it and understand where it's spending your money and ensure that you're making the most out of it. So once you strip out brand, you'll see that your ROAS will probably be 40%, maybe high, but it's significantly chunk lower, right, once you split that out. And it's cannibalizing traffic you either get for free for SEO, or you could have got a lot cheaper if you had it in a dedicated brand campaign where it wasn't, paying over the odds for the cost per clicks there. So without intervention, you just can't stop this happening. So how to fix this? So I kind of brushed on some of these already, but in a bit more detail. You want to have dedicated brand campaigns. So dedicated campaigns with dedicated ad copy, targeting your brand's name, any branded products that you sell. These sorts of things you want to be having in their own campaigns, separate from PMax. If you're purely running PMax, you might want to keep brand in there, just so you can have that shopping coverage on brand, but ideally you'd also have that dedicated as a dedicated branded shopping campaign as well, to split that out. You then want to be adding in PMax brand exclusions. So adding negative keywords for the brand from the PMax campaign, and also using the brand list exclusion feature in Google Ads settings so that you can exclude this traffic and ensure that it's only appearing for generic terms, people search for your product, that sort of thing, not your brand. And then search term monitoring. So ideally at least once a week, ideally 2 to 3 times a week, you want to be going through the search terms that the PMax campaign is triggering for, and just having a general sense check in there, like, is there terms that are appearing consistently over a longer period of time that aren't driving conversions? Are there terms that are just irrelevant? So support queries. So for example, you sell a product that needs to be installed. Are you triggering people searching for like how to install this product or how to set up this product? That's arguably a search you don't need to be paying for on ads. You should be able to cover that through like your email flows or instruction manuals you're sending with the product, that sort of thing. You don't need to be bidding for that on Google Ads, unless obviously that is a key business goal. But in most cases, that's not going to be the case, right? You don't want to be spending your acquisition budget on these types of traffic. Moving into around your specifics of your product feed. So with Google Shopping and PMax, which is predominantly Google Shopping in 9 out of 10 cases, the feed is the ad, and this is where you get most of the optimization efforts from Google Shopping. So you want to make sure that your product feed is very, very robust. It has as much attributes and data in it as possible so that Google can surface your products for the most relevant terms, the most relevant users. Because unlike search campaigns, you don't have direct control over the keywords and search terms that your shopping ads search for. They are going to be Google's going to dynamically match your product feed to what people are searching on Google. So the more data you can give Google, understanding what your product is, the more relevant the traffic is you're going to be getting from it. So there's a few things in here. The main thing is going to be the title and the image, but there's many different attributes you can add to the product feed depending on the different category of the product. Some attributes aren't applicable to all products, but you want to be researching what attributes are available and making sure that you have all those in your feed. But what we're going to touch on here is just the 3 most important ones. So title structure. So I put an example on this slide here. So a bad example, if you take an example, if we're selling water filters, a bad example of a product title in Google Shopping would be just water filter on its own. A better title would be either brand at the start or the end, but stainless steel tap water filter, 6-stage filtration, removes fluoride and chlorine. So in that case, we're specifying the material of the product. So people searching for stainless steel, we're saying that it's a tap water filter. So it's very specific that it's not like a Brita jug or something. It's specifically for a tap, not anything else. And it explains the filtration process and then a benefit that it removes fluoride and chlorine, right? So it's a much more optimized title. So that would trigger for people searching stainless steel water filter, tap water filter, remove fluoride from my water, like that sort of thing, right? It's going to trigger for a lot more specific searches that the product sold, as opposed to just water filter, which would capture traffic, but it's going to be capturing a much broader range of traffic that's not obviously going to be all looking for your product. And then looking at localization, right? So the way that people describe the product in different markets is going to be different. So you don't want to be having the same product feed and the same titles in every market. So if you're selling in the US, for example, you'd maybe call it a facet filter, or in the UK, a tap filter, right? So you want to be making sure that what you're selling and the language you're using to sell it matches the keyword volume and the search volume for that specific product in that specific market. It's going to make a big impact on your ad relevance, the amount of traffic, impressions you're going to be getting for the ad, and the click-through rate as well. And then the third attribute we want to be optimizing is the image. So instead of just having a flat lay, we might want to test a lifestyle image. So instead of, for example, with this water filter, we could just have a picture of the water filter on a white background, or we could have a picture of the water filter actually attached to a tap and showing it in use situation, right? Essentially, we want to be testing many different images and ensuring that we're getting the highest click-through rate, because the biggest thing in a shopping ad is going to be the image. That's what people are going to see. The image and the price is going to be the 2, main considerations people see before they click through. So we want to make that image as appealing as possible, make it stand out against your competitors. So test these images a lot. So I would test product flat lays, lifestyles, infographics, test all these images, find out which variation works best for you, and then iterate again on that. So if it's lifestyle images, test multiple lifestyle images. Don't just settle with the first one. Keep testing it every couple of weeks and just see how it's progressing, what's the best click-through rate. And essentially you just want to keep iterating until you find the best variant that works for you. Product duplication. So this is another way we can mainly amplify this, but we can actually work in tandem with what I've just explained around how the feed is the main lever behind this. So assuming we're selling omega-3 fish oil supplements in this case, we could be having our product title as just omega-3 fish oil supplement, or we could essentially turn that into 3 different products targeting 3 different audiences or use cases. So here we could have omega-3 for women, fish oil for brain health, omega-3 for heart health. It's the same product, but we're changing the feed and duplicating the products in the feed 3 times to appeal to these 3 different audiences. So when we're doing this, we are changing the product title so that it has a higher relevance for people searching for that specific use case. So women, brain health, heart health. It's going to have a lot higher ad relevance. So you will appear higher in the carousel for those searches. It's going to have a higher ad relevance, higher quality score, and ultimately lower CPCs. And we're going to be pairing the product title changes with image changes. So we want to have the images that are relevant to these individual use cases. So for example, the woman one will be easy. We just have a woman holding the supplement or something in their hand as an example there. So make it more relevant to that search. And then the landing pages that you're sending this traffic to, we want to have dedicated landing pages for each of these. So instead of just having an omega-3 fish oil supplement and we're sending all of that traffic to that one specific product page that explains all the benefits and it's very generic around what the supplement does, we want to be sending the traffic to dedicated pages. So for example, with the women's one, it would explain how omega-3 is beneficial for women and all the benefits of it directly for that audience. And then brain health, we'd have obviously content very focused around how the supplement aids brain health, et cetera, and then heart health, the same thing again, right? So what we're doing here is we're changing the product in the feed to match the search intent. We're making the image more relevant to increase click-through rate, and then we're optimizing the content on the page so the conversion rate is higher and it's more relevant to that user that's triggering through. And essentially we're running all 3 of these at the same time. So instead of just running one, we've essentially tripled our coverage here. And we're also appealing more with a higher quality score on each of these terms. So essentially we're multiplying our presence and we're increasing conversion rates for these specific use cases. So it's a really great strategy to scale the account without massively increasing spend or anything. You're just improving conversion rates, improving metrics that are already there. So yeah, going into this in a bit more depth, I've covered pretty much most of it there, but essentially we want to change product title, image, landing page, and then also the product description you're submitting to Google Merch Sense. We want to make sure that is optimized so all the benefit statements are tailored towards each audience segment rather than just a generic overview of the product and what it does. So moving into more of the back end side of things that you won't really see in platform or the ad itself, but can have a big impact on the overall account's scalability and quality. So the first one is CSS partners, which it's not anything new, but it's a really big lever if you're running ads in the UK and Europe. Essentially, you're paying 20% more on clicks than you need to be. So if you were to run a CSS partner instead of Google's CSS, you'll essentially get the same traffic for 20% less, or you could spend more and get 20% more spend the same and get 20% more traffic. It's very easy to set up and it's going to immediately add efficiencies to the ad account. So highly recommended. It only works in the UK and Europe, but it's highly recommended if you're running in those markets to get that set up. The second one here is around merchant center quality. So Google is going to be rating your store quality based on a few different factors. So how fast you can ship products, what your returns policy is like, what your customer support experience is like, how fast your website loads, what the user experience on the site is like, all these different factors. Google is going to be rating you as a merchant and then scoring you into, I think, 5 different categories, with the best being exceptional. If you get exceptional, you will get a top quality store badge on your ads, which essentially is going to increase trust with users. It's obviously Google's going to want to promote you more because Google's main goal is to have a better experience for its users. So if it knows you are a good merchant, then it's going to be more likely to promote you. And it also gives that additional social proof signal to customers who sees your ad and sees this top quality store badge. So the way we want to optimize for this is essentially moving on to the second bit here around ensuring that your merch center settings are as optimized as they can be. So sometimes you'll see a merch center account will have shipping of 7 to 10 days, but actually they can deliver in 1 to 2 days. And that's just a missed opportunity there. Because in the ads, underneath the ad, it will say delivery by this date, which will be the longest date in your merchant center settings. Whereas if you change that to 1 to 2 days, it's going to obviously show that, and it's going to put you much more competitive with your competitors. Because if you're selling a very similar product to your competitors and they can deliver it 3 or 4 days faster than you, and it's an urgent need for that user to get that product, they're probably going to buy from the company that can ship it to them the quickest. So ensuring that you have that set up correctly is going to improve click-through rates in ads. The same with your returns policies. You want to be upfront with your returns policies. If you offer like a longer than usual return policy, you want to be highlighting that. In there, again, that's going to increase social proof, consumer trust, and make them want to click through to your ad. And then another thing I've not mentioned here is around promotions, which is going to be a massive boost to your click-through rate. So if you are running any form of promotion, whether that's a seasonal sale, or even if it's just like you offer 10% off for first order for new customers, you can get that set up in Merchant Center and it will appear underneath your product ad as, here is your, you get 10% off or you get $10 off or whatever the discount is. That's going to appear there and it's going to, make your ad look more prominent. And the last thing on this is around product ratings. So when you search on Google, you'll see some listings have star ratings underneath them. Essentially, that's what product ratings is. So if you have a decent amount of reviews in your product, you can set up product ratings inside of Merch Center, link your reviews platform to it, and it will automatically set up a reviews feed, syncing through all this information to Google Merch Center. Essentially, then when someone searches your product, they'll see, if it's got 4.5 stars out of 5, whatever, and that will appear underneath the ad, which again is more, more of a visual aid to people clicking on your ad and making you stand out against your competition. So yeah, to run through that, you want shipping settings optimized, returns optimized, promotions set up, review fees set up. They're the main things you want to have set up. And then obviously around this, the only other things that you've got to cover there are the other factor I've not mentioned here is around images per listing. So instead of just having one product image, which is either a flat lay or lifestyle image, you want to have about 7 to 8 different images for your product. So that could even just be the images from your product page that have different explanations of how the product works, social proof for the product, different models wearing it if it's clothing. So different models wearing it, different body types, different sizes, that sort of thing. You want to be providing as much information as possible so consumers can click through on the shopping tab before they click through to the website and get more context. Moving into more around like how to reduce wastage and how to have better control over where your traffic's going, specifically when it comes to PMax. So we touched on this at the beginning, but this is a bit more in depth. So when you're talking about your PMax campaigns, you're going to see it's going to be triggering for a lot of different types of traffic, right? You're going to have competitors in there supporting informational queries, irrelevant categories, and then already converted, which I mentioned as like the how to use, etc. You want to be going through this, depending on the spend, at least once a week, ideally more than that, maybe twice a week, and just checking all of the ways that you can minimize wasted spend. So when you first do this task, you'll probably look back at, say, the last 3 months, last 6 months, because that will give you the biggest data set if you've not done this for a while. You'll be able to see, maybe we spent £500 on this one search term, but it's not generated any conversions. That's just a wasted budget, right? Let's get rid of that. Obviously, if it's, the exact term of what your product is, you're not going to exclude it. But if it's, something that's not a direct commercially intent level term, you want to be getting that out of the campaign and reducing that waste and reviewing this on a weekly basis. This used to be a very time-consuming task to go through this if it was a high-spending account. But what you can do now is export this data, put it into something like Claude, get it to categorize your product, get it to categorize, the terms into these different buckets, and it will be able to give you a report on all the different wastage and all these different categories, provided you've trained it on, what your brand is, what your products are. It can be a great time-saving tool to, get this done ensure you keep it doing consistently and reduce that wasted spend there. I can also give you ideas for new campaigns. So if you see that there's a lot of data, traffic coming through for a specific keyword, but it's underperforming, that can give you an idea to potentially build out a dedicated campaign targeting those sorts of keywords with dedicated landing pages, dedicated ad copy, and turn that into something that's actually making money for the business rather than losing money. When it comes to competitor traffic, this one really varies on the different brands. Like, not all brands want to bid on competitors. That's completely fair. Some brands do, some brands don't. But if you are bidding on competitors, you want to make sure that you're doing it in the most effective way possible. So you want to have that separate from your like generic non-branded campaigns. You want to have it in its own campaigns, own ad copy, which can be as aggressive or less aggressive as you want it to be, depending on what your brand stands for, what kind of how you position yourselves. But you want to be essentially making that ad copy, I guess, why you're better than the competitor or why you're a good alternative to the competitor, depending on how you want to frame it. And then ideally you want to be sending that to a different landing page to your core ads. So that will be going to an us versus them, or like maybe not an us versus them, but an overall page which is explaining why you're different to the competitor, why you're better than the competitor, why the customer should buy from you instead of just sending them to a generic product page or collection page. You want to be sending them to somewhere where it's relevant to what they're searching for and trying to convince them to buy from you instead. Moving into the when to scale side of things. So there's a few signs you should be looking at that you should be spending more on Google Ads. First one is your impression share is low, below 70%. 70% is where you kind of want to be at. If you're going higher than that, you will see your costs rise quite substantially. So it depends what the kind of business's goals are. If the goals is to be the category leader, then of course you want to be pushing as hard as you can. But if the goal is profitable growth, like on first purchase or second or third purchase, then you want to be looking at your search impression share, seeing where we're at. And if you're under this 60, 70% mark, increasing budgets, increasing bids to capture more of that demand. If your CPA is consistently below target or your ROAS is above target for at least 2 weeks or a month at the current spend level, you want to be testing increasing that, not substantially, but 20, 30% every couple of weeks. See if you can get that up and ensure that it's obviously remaining within your targets. Kind of linked to that is budget limited campaigns. So sometimes you'll see in Google Ads, your campaigns will get flagged as limited by budget. This is a good indicator that there's more demand for you to capture. But you want to take these suggestions with a pinch of salt, because there was the account I was in yesterday that was on, a campaign was on £400 a day and it wanted to put it on £1,200 a day. That's like a 3x bump, right? Which is obviously great to see. That it shows that there's scalability there. But if we were to put that from 400 to 1,200 in one day, the performance is going to just drop off a cliff for the first few days, right? The efficiency is going to go out the window. So we want to be scaling, but we want to be scaling maximum really 20, 30% at a time, every kind of 3 to 5 days, 5 to 7 days, reviewing how the campaigns react to those changes over that period, and then scaling more aggressively again afterwards. And then the last one is around competitors outranking you on key terms. So you want to be going into your auction insights and looking for how you compare to competitors. Are they appearing higher impression share or lower impression share than you? Are they outranking you? If competitors are consistently above you, that's a good sign that there's impression for you to capture, or sales that are being lost to your competitors that you could be winning back. So look in your auction insights and see if there is room to scale that further. In terms of how to scale safely, kind of cover that in some of those points there, but essentially, increasing budgets 15, 20% every 5 to 7 days, monitoring your CPA and ROAS for the period after that, seeing how it reacts. Obviously, downscaling, upscaling based on how the performance has been, expanding audiences and keywords in parallel. So kind of going back to what I said about exporting keyword data, putting it in Claude, you want to be looking for any new opportunities you have there to build out new campaigns, scale the account into different keywords you're not bidding on currently, and then ensuring that the operations of the business can handle the volume that you're scaling. Obviously, if you're scaling very rapidly, then it could cause some operational constraints. So you want to make sure everything's smooth before you ramp up the acquisition side. Cool. So in terms of like an actual plan of what you can do this week or maybe next week now, because I know it's Thursday, in terms of being able to implement this into your account. So you want to go into your account, look at your PMax campaigns, add a filter for if it includes brand or doesn't include brand, just see the difference, see what kind of efficiency difference you're getting from brand versus non-brand in PMax. It varies on accounts, but usually I'd say it's around 40% lower in terms of ROAS when you exclude brand. Audit your search terms. That's a really quick one. You can do that in less than 30 minutes to an hour. Just export that into Claude, get it to analyze it for you, and then you can implement those learnings into the account immediately. And then feed optimization. The first thing I check is product feed titles. Are they structured? Are they localized? Do they have the best keyword relevance in mind? So instead of just being, the brand, the term, the product that no one's searching for, are they, very keyword relevant for what that user is searching for when they look for your product? Look at impression share and see if there is a way to get that, opportunity to scale that up. And then explore a comparison shopping service partner to get those CPCs down, because you're currently overpaying if you're not using one of these. Perfect. That was everything I had for this talk. Any questions at all?
Do you have any slides with the contact information?
Yes.
That's awesome. Let's keep the slides. So guys, follow James also on LinkedIn, send him a message and visit the website. Any questions from the audience? What do you think about this AI tools that's running? Like there's called TrueClicks, if I'm not mistaken. Some clients asking me, hey, how do I run PPC campaign myself with the help of AI? TrueClicks, I don't know, that's a
It's a good question. Some of these tools are good. I think they're good at saving time in terms of managing it. Mm-hmm. But I think you would probably get better results doing it yourself. If you know the base of it, you'd probably get better results doing it yourself and having more control over these AI tools. But they are a good way to get stuff set up and save time in the process.
Okay, right. Sounds good. And I know, again, there is a co-organizer profit metrics that I want to highly recommend to check. It's a tool that allows you to do a bidding on top of the profit as well. James, how do you confirm that scaling is generating new demand and not just capturing existing demand at more expense?
Great question. You want to be looking at the measurement from outside of just Google Ads and the platform. You want to be using something like Triple O and Northbeam and measuring new customer percentage and new customer ROAS, new customer CPA in a third-party tool to Google Ads to essentially ensure that it is capturing new demand and not just capturing existing demand. You kind of see like an incrementality there.
What would be the best AI for writing product descriptions and blogs?
My personal opinion is Claude. That seems to be the one I've had the best experience with, but I think they're all pretty good these days, but Claude is my go-to at the moment.
We had another talk about SEO, about importance optimizing product pages for AI. So also Louis mentioned about the Claude being his go-to. So James, I appreciate you jumping into this afternoon. Thank you for your insight. It's a very structured slides. I'm sure our audience will enjoy.